Tell me what the hell are you scared of when in the end the only thing
Where's
that's
the love?
saying
Right here on
love's
this
in the
podcast.
rain.
Welcome to Love
Sometimes
Drops,
it seems
where
September
your
is never the
hosts
things
and
that
One Love
used to be.
ambassadors,
Never
Charles
receiving
and Diane,
flowers,
will
together
share
alone
love,
as
hope,
humanity
and
takes the
inspirational
sweetest of
topics
life.
taken
All
from
of the
their
reasons
journey
to
and
wish
world
love, all of
events.
the times
We
you
will
felt
also include
like
on location recordings and special pop up guests from cool places all around the world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never fails.
Welcome to another episode of Love Drops Podcast. And I am so excited for the guest that we have today. I'll just say it like this: there are times when our soul calls out for what we need, for what we need. We know what we need, but we just don't know exactly where it will come from, how it'll come from, how it's embodied. So there was a soul call. I just put it out there and I'm like, I want to be in the presence, direct presence, with not just a heavy hitter here or there. I want to be saturated and immersed in it. I want that energy around me because it's time for elevation. So, in order to have that elevation, I need that energy. I need that energy all around me to just jump, and just leap upwards, right? To be able to do the global building that I know I will do in this upcoming year. Global connections have been made. So there's elevation that comes with going from virtually to physically in person. It's elevation that comes for just using my gifts, my offerings to allow for the resources to come into my life without always doing a call or an ask or a raise, but just going from the storehouse and just pulling and just opening my hands and letting it overflow. For me to be that one that is pouring in, not love drops, but love pours into other people that are coming up, right? So all of that is said to bring my next guest to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Cathrine James. Cathrine, welcome to Love Drops. You have the mic.
Hi, Diane. I am so grateful to be here and like just full. I had to mute out because I was over here just and moaning and like, yes, I feel all of that. Thank you for having me. Thank you. I so appreciate you. And I am honored to be in your presence.
Well, thank you, Cathrine, for being here. And so let's just jump in. Tell our listeners a little bit about who Cathrine James is. And don't forget to let them know where you are speaking to us from.
Yes. So I'll start with that. I am Cathrine James, and I am in Pasadena, California, the Los Angeles area, where it's not completely sunny today. So it does rain in Southern California. But I am also a trauma-informed transformation coach. I am a number one best-selling author. I am a international speaker, and I am most importantly a child of God. I am a wife of nearly 30 years. I am a mom of two adult children, a son and a daughter. And I have a heart for working with high achievers, high performing women who have attained all of the stuff in life. They've attained the high salaries, they've attained the designer bags and European cars and large houses. They have all this stuff and look very successful on the outside, but feel very empty on the inside. And I do that primarily through coaching and utilizing a method that really goes back to the root cause being trauma, oftentimes rooted in early life traumas that we may not be aware of. I like to say I help people, women, go to the root cause without making them feel uprooted because I rely a lot on somatic principles as well as embodiment. And also, I work with organizations to help bring leaders back into their bodies, which is so important, especially during today's times where we are becoming more and more disconnected. When we understand the messages that come from our body and connect with our body, we can have more compassion, we can have more empathy, we can have more love, and we can lead others better and get the productivity as well as results that we desire in organizations. So that is who I am.
Yes, 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 yes. I am definitely connected to the right frequency here. Yes, yes, yes. So we're gonna just dive in, and so there's so many places we could start here. We could start with the podcast. We could start with the business. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn it over to you and just ask this question. What is your inspirational driving force, right, behind what you are building, this legacy, this empire that you are building? What drives you?
Wow, that's a big question. And I am going to be fully transparent as it's the only way I know how to be. When I first heard it, I thought my great grandmother, who is not with me and has not been with me in over almost 40 years now. But I am a little girl who was born to teenage parents. Both were 16 years old, both lost their parents before I was born. Both were searching for love and did not know how to receive nor give love. And so, because my grandmother had passed, I'm saying because I don't know if this is the answer, but she was not there when I was born. My great grandmother stepped in, and she was my primary caregiver during my primary years because my mom was 16. She didn't have a lot of knowledge and wisdom in raising a child. And I say my grandmother, my great grandmother, because one thing I remember and one thing I knew is that she saw me as special. She saw me as a gift. And today, every move I make, whether it be starting a podcast, releasing a new program, helping someone transform their lives and getting the feedback, I pay homage to her. I pay homage to her. It is my way of saying thank you for believing in me. It is my way for saying thank you for seeing a child that was not favored. The second part of that question, Diane, is I knew, or the second answer I'll give, I knew from early in life that I was put on this earth to work with women. I didn't know how. And I say women, I think women evolved. I think as I grew, became more aware that it was women. But when I was 6 years old, I would, every Sunday when I got on my Sunday clothes, I would go to my brother's room, who had one of those old antique dressers that had the big mirror that flipped. I would go into his room and get on his bed. And in my young mind, that bed became a stage. And in that mirror, I could see my audience. And all I knew how to do was sing. So I thought, people that were on stages were singers. So I would get on that bed and I would sing Be Grateful by Tremaine Hawkins, and all of these songs, just pouring my soul out to this audience. And in return, I would receive their energies, and knowing that me standing there was somehow helping them. And that was what I desired to do. That, from 6 years old, is what I've always known I was placed on this earth to do. It took me a long time to get here, but I've always known that that was my calling from that age. That's what continues to drive me. I have to. That's why I was created.
Woo! That's powerful. That's powerful, because so many people are still searching. So many people are still seeking. And that is so powerful. And it kind of, I don't want to say this, maybe for me, gives a clearer image of why your niche is what it is, because you are evolved, because you know where you're going, you know the work that it took to get there. So you are, for lack of another analogy, kind of waiting at that mountain top, that pinnacle. You're waiting, right, for the women to come, right? And you're meeting the women that are already there. So the question is not, are you willing to do the work, because they've done the work. Now it's a matter of, are you ready to do transformation? Are you ready to go deeper, right? And, just working with women in general can sometimes be a challenge. I'm the oldest of two sisters, and so they call me the bossy one. I don't know. I say that I'm assertive and, a leader. And so what has been some of, I don't even want to say challenges, but what has been some of, well, they kind of are challenges. So call it what it is, right? What has been some of the challenges or obstacles that you've encountered in working with these high-powered women? What have been some of the things that you've encountered and overcame?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, you call them challenges, and I'll call them trauma responses. I like that you said it's not that they have not done the work. They know what that feels like. They know what that looks like. And when I think of work in this manner, I think of performing. As we were talking earlier, I spoke of how we are trained. We are trained to go to school and get a good education and get a good job and make a lot of money. Yes, they've done that work, and something's still missing. And I was her. So this is why I'm so connected to this woman, because I did all of that and something was missing. I spent 20 years in personal development, and I had working on myself, and I had to overcome a lot. I had let go of the anger. I had let go of the sarcastic attitude. I had let go of the assertiveness, we'll call it.
Right.
I had let go of a lot of that. I had let go of a lot of the stories that said I wasn't worthy and I wasn't good enough. I had overcome all of that. And there was still a part of me that was uneasy, that felt unfulfilled, that felt unhappy. I didn't know what it was to experience joy. I didn't know what it was to fully receive love. And all of the defining of who I was caught up in what I do. And it wasn't until I fell into trauma and did some deeper work that my being, the being that God created, re-emerged. And so the challenges that I have with some of these women is that we are so tied to what we know how to do. We are so tied to information I have. Mm-hmm. I'm smart. I have X number of degrees. We are so tied to relying on this intellectual brain. Know that we may be unhappy, but instead of releasing or surrendering and coming back into the body, reconnecting with the center, the soul, we continue to try to think ourselves out of this state that we're in. So those are some of the challenges that I've had as really walking with women. Like, I would love for them to come to me and be ready to go. Like, yes, I had one client, I remember her first session, she said, I'm ready to go deep. Let's go deep today. And I was like, what, you sure? But most, it's a titration. You know, we have to take baby steps, and we can get so lost. They can get so lost in this thing that even when I was working with a woman last week, something released in her, a fear that she had been holding. And it was just comical to me because all of a sudden her eyes start going, like she was looking like, wait a minute, where'd it go? What happened?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's really knowing that we can come back. We don't have to settle for the dis-ease, unease that resides in our body. We don't have to settle for living a life where it looks good on the outside, but we are really not fulfilled. We don't have to settle for relationships or jobs that do not align with us, that do not speak to our souls for the sake of saying, I've accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have to do that. And some of the challenges that I see with this group of women that I desire to serve and support is that they are willing to settle for the sake of looking good on the outside.
Now that's a word. That's a word. That's a word. And here's the thing. A lot of times people feel like the facade, right? The facade, the covering, the mask will cover it. But what I say all the time is the vibe don't lie. And you cannot control the vibe. So you can see someone and they can be so put together, have the biggest smile on their face, right? And from a distance, you may say, well, look at there, and, just in admiration. But as you get closer, right, you can feel the sadness because even with the mask, even with the facade, there are going to be those glitches in the matrix, I say, right? Where you look and you can see the sadness. It's a flicker and then it goes. Sometimes it's not even that. You can just feel it, right? You can just feel it, right? You feel the heaviness. You feel the anger, right? And so it's a gift. It's a gift that is innate within you that you are sharing. And even though it may be challenging sometimes, I know for a fact, because we have a mutual friend in common. And I know for a fact that you are being used to change, elevate, make a difference, activate that transformation, the fact that you went through it in your own life. And that's the part right there, right? It's like we want to be used as that catalyst for change. But how can I talk to you, really talk to you and connect with you about the struggle if I've never had a struggle?
Yeah, I know for me, it's just a greater longing. Like it's a greater longing. And as you're talking about the makeup, I see, I do know that it is a gift. But I can see, and I think oftentimes the more makeup,
Mm-hmm.
the greater tear down. And it's not, I like to help people understand that while it's hard because it's different, it doesn't have to be hard. Like, it doesn't have to hurt. We go through things. I think all the time when I went through my transformation from in terms of dealing with my traumas, it was a hard moment, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And working in a field, even though I was good, that did not align with my calling was a hard period. Like
Mm-hmm.
25 years, Diane, I knew that that was not what I was supposed to do, but I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid. And no one in my immediate family, friend circle, anything had stepped out and did something different. I was afraid, but my heart like longs. I can stay up at night thinking about the women that look good on the outside, but are
Mm-hmm.
on the inside. I remember the nights when I would cry myself to sleep, only to get up the next morning and go to work and have it all together. Like making this happen, making that happen, moving this, moving that, have it all together to return back home. There was a time where I went through a state of depression, functional depression,
Yes.
and to know that there are other women out there. I get up every day to talk to that one that raises her hand to say, that is me. And I have come to a place of saying, I'm ready to come out of this. And we go to the body because the body is really what's controlling. the,
Mm-hmm.
the body is controlling our thoughts. The body is controlling our actions. For so long in science, we were told that this head brain was leading the body, but we now know that 80 to 90% of the body is sending messages up to this head brain. 10 to 20 is sending from messages from the head brain to the body. So,
Mm-hmm.
and like just anatomically, if we just look at it, the body is the biggest thing, right? It's so much bigger than
Right.
it only makes sense that
Exactly.
messages. But I want to, or I do work with women from that perspective. Like we don't have to go through this hard breakdown, relive the story, conjure up the trauma and go back. Like, no, you don't have to do that because it's not the story that's keeping us stuck. It's not the
Right.
story that's creating the fear. It's the body. And all it's doing is protecting you. And once it understands that you're safe, we can release that energy and go on to live the life that we've truly been created to live. My brand is sensational living. And I often say one of my favorite scriptures. God said, I came that you may have life and you may have life more abundantly. And just to think about what that actually means, the only way that I could put it in a box and make it make sense was sensational living. Like we get to live sensationally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all areas of life, but it doesn't just happen. Like we have to take action. I love that you said activate. We have to take action. We have to activate something in our lives. And we have, as women, shown up for everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those who are high achievers, we have shown up for everyone else consciously, but we have been shaped unconsciously to not show up for ourselves. So we fail to show up for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
My charge is to bring in awareness. If we are having this feeling where we're uncomfortable, we're having this feeling where we are unfulfilled, the body is sending a message. And it's saying, hey, I'm ready for you to show up for me. I'm ready for you to see me. I feel like that was a long answer to a question.
No, that was so on point because we kind of broke it up. So it really wasn't. It really, really wasn't. It fit. It fit the conversation and it was relevant and meaningful, right? And it was something that somebody needed
Yes.
to hear. That's
Yes.
why I do what I do here because it's bigger than me, it's bigger than the guests, it's
Mhm.
the listening audience. I feel like this platform is literally to drop some love and inspiration where it's needed. And so, and maybe they can't get out of their space, or maybe they're not just ready yet, but they can hear something here to just get it going, to get them started, right? So, what I'd like to ask you about is the podcast. So, okay, you have your clients, right? And so they are high achievers and they come to you to do the work. Before we get to the podcast, all right, we're gonna make a little quick turn. How would you say how would you say, or how would you gauge that you are taking care of yourself? How are you assessing your worth? Because if you are there and if they are coming to you, then your worth is high as well. So, how do you, as one who gives, right? How do you compensate yourself in all of this?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I hear that question a lot because I believe that there is a stigma that trauma is hard, and it is. I don't want to downplay it at all, but I believe that I am just truly the vessel, and there is a channeling that comes through me, which means I don't take it on. I don't take it on, and I am ever so careful to self care. So, self care, meaning I have rituals that I do daily to ensure that my nervous system is regulated. I have in the morning, I just thought about this the other day, almost 3 hours in the morning where I am just taking care of myself. That is a walk, and that's a walk in my house. That is reading and journaling. I do tapping a lot of times. That's devotion. Devotion's first thing in the morning before I even get out the bed. It's funny, I was sharing this with someone and I said, sometimes, my husband, if he gets up and goes somewhere else, I won't talk to him even. Like, it's just being in that space where I am filling up. So the physiological, if that's a word, compensation, the body embodied compensation, taking care of myself. And then, with my clients, they come with the understanding that we're going to do some good, deep work. And
Mhm.
they are willing to pay for that. It's different than a lot of coaching that's out there. I am ICF credentialed, so it is a lot of asking questions, but also a lot of allowing them to connect with the body and doing somatic work.
Mm. So ICF,
Yes, International Coaching Federation.
awesome, awesome. And I've noticed that you've said the nervous system. I've noticed that that is like a continuing thread. So touch on that because I understand, but
Yeah.
just, for our listeners, what is the importance, right, of, just that nervous system and those shocks?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We get into certain environments, it becomes like the lingo is so natural and you just roll it out and you forget that maybe not everybody else knows that because it's not their area, right? Um, I appreciate that. But the nervous system, and specifically the autonomic nervous system, is the parts of our bodies that controls, again, our thinking, our behaviors, but also, let me back up. It's broken up into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Okay, so
Hmm.
there's two parts. And the nervous system, when we hear autonomic, it automatically responds to different things that are going on in our lives. The sympathetic, which is maybe heard of, or more people may be more familiar with the fight or flight response. Um,
Hmm.
our sympathetic nervous system, if something happens in our lives, automatically our body will respond, and it doesn't just respond in way of conscious behavior, where we want to run away or something, but it also responds in way of somatic or physiological. If we are made to become afraid, our heart rate is going to increase, our eyes are going to dilate. It prepares us to take action.
Hmm.
And if we look at it from a scientific standpoint, it's the most primitive part of our being, and it needs to keep you safe. So the preparation means it's going to do something.
Hmm.
We can be safe, and we don't have time to think about it in our logical brain or the prefrontal cortex, where we are able to think logically and rationally. So if a car is coming at you and you're crossing the street and you pause to say, oh my God, is this car going to hit me? What am I? You're probably going to get run over.
Right.
But if the autonomic nervous system kicks in as it does, it's going to say run, and you'll
Right.
just take action. So
Yes.
when I'm talking, and then we have the parasympathetic. The parasympathetic has two stages, and I'm now speaking from Dr. Stephen Porges' work. He has the dorsal and ventral.
Hmm.
So it's shut down. So when we collapse, and we do absolutely nothing, it keeps us safe. Sometimes we can
Hmm.
experience something in life and it's so overwhelming, fight or flight. We just got to stop. Ventral is more of that state of calm, that state of peace. Ventral is where I like to help people get to. And in that state, we're more creative. We are more loving, as you talk about dropping love. We can only do that from ventral. We can't do that compared to
Right.
fight or flight. Um,
Hmm.
so the autonomic nervous system, when I'm referring to that, oftentimes, and when I say it, most times I'm talking from a state of the sympathetic or the fight or flight or freeze, because that's where we live. A large majority of people live, that's their home. Their body
Hmm.
is in that state. And we don't know that we have the option of ventral.
Right.
And when I say don't know, the body doesn't know, because it has resided in fight or flight and freeze for so long. So
Right.
most of my clients, when they are coming to me, they understand that something is wrong, something more is available, but they have tried other things and they've not been able to get there. I love to play on that saying, why is it, we grew up hearing, when you know better, you do better.
Right.
And I love to say, why is it when you know better, you don't do better? And
Ah.
knowing better is this prefrontal cortex, like our thinking brain.
Hmm.
But doing better has to come from the body. And if the body says doing that thing is not safe, guess
Right.
what? You're not going to be able to do it. I don't care how much more information you put in. And I could go on and on about this as I'm thinking about all of the systems that are created. DEI, we got to just do some more training. We just got to do more training. But if is not on board, I don't care how much information you put in, the action will not change.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the sympathetic nervous system.
Wow, wow, that was so good. And while you were speaking, right, it's just like that fight or flight and going back to trauma,
Yeah.
right? So when you are in trauma, that fight or flight is turned on. When you come out of trauma, that's like one of the things that you really have to work at turning off because it's still turned on. So even in post-traumatic stress, when you're out of that traumatic environment physically, but now you're dealing with it mentally. And like you said, your body will respond, right, to that trauma. So whether it's physical or mental, it's still on. So when you were talking about that ventral, I was like, huh. And it just kind of made me think about even like that peace that comes over, that peace that washes over you when you're just in a place where you just need to go to the peace, right?
Yeah.
Where you just need to go to the peace. And it just made me think about that ventral. And so I'm like, I'm gonna have to look at that more. You talked about the heart of the matter. And so as we are just kind of circling our way to our conclusion here, just let's speak about the podcast. Some like what inspired the podcast and what message are you hoping, striving to promote with your podcast?
Before I answer that, I want to say, just for clarity, we need all of the 3 stages of the nervous system. Like the nervous system is the body's way of keeping us safe.
Mm-hmm.
Where we can run into trouble is when we get stuck in one area. Like it's not reasonable to believe that we're going to always live in ventral. Because if you do, and the car is coming at you, and you're like Pollyanna, oh my gosh, look at the lights. Guess what? Right?
Right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
a healthy nervous system is the ability to move, weave in and out as necessary. So I want to say that the podcast, Where Her Heart Speaks, is really a play on words. The heart to me is our soul. The heart to me is that ventral state. Some people call it ventral like a flow state. I see it as a God connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so where her heart speaks is the soul speaking in the soul, and women being able to listen from that place, to quiet some of the external noise and come back to a place of where her heart speaks, and not only hear it, but trust it.
Mm-hmm.
So the podcast, Where Her Heart Speaks, is my goal is really to cause a little disruption. And in doing that, there is just so much programming that we have become conditioned to accept. We have really just acquiesced to what has been given. And along with helping people understand the effects of trauma and bringing awareness of trauma responses, I also want to just kind of be a bit thought provoking in terms of some of the messages that we've received throughout our lives, be they patriarchal messages,
Mm-hmm.
Women are supposed to be this way, do it that way, systemic messages, go to school, get a good education, cultural messages, sexism messages, whatever these messages that may not be applicable for the individual, just to raise awareness and help women sit back and say, wait a minute, yeah, maybe that's not in alignment with my heart, or where my heart speaks from that place, or my soul. Maybe that's not what really resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my goal for the show, to really create a bit more freedom in our thinking, with the understanding that we got to move through this body to get there.
Nice. I love it. I've listened to your show and recently recorded a guest spot for your show. And ooh, it's good. It's good. It really is good. And I think that as women, wherever we are on that spectrum, wherever we fall, right? Are we ready? Are we getting ready? Are we woke? Are we waking up? Are we still asleep? Wherever we fall, right? It's time to change the narrative. It's time to elevate. It's time to elevate, right? And so, with that said, how can our listeners contact you, support you? And when I say support you, as you're giving that information, if there you mentioned a bestseller book, what is that book? So even before we get into that information, let's talk about that book for a second here.
Yeah, what's ringing in my head are your words, wherever you fall. Wow, wherever you fall. So my book is called The Sensational Woman: Learning to Love and Embrace Your Greatest Asset, You. And that book is really about accepting all of life, all of the good, all of the bad, and knowing that it has made up the sum value of you.
Mm,
You would not be where you are today without having gone through all of those experiences. It is my life story. But when I sat down to write that book and I was with my publisher, I said, I don't want to just write a story about me. I need there to be tips in this book. I need there to
mm,
be questions in this book that is going to resonate, that's going to cause the reader to look at their own lives and say, yeah, I can relate to that, or that's something I can do to overcome that.
mm-hmm.
While it's a lot of my story, it talks about my traumas, and there are a lot, so beware. But it also, the final chapter of that book is forgiveness.
Yes.
And God gave me to close with forgiving, because after I talk about all of the things that had happened, it would be easy to be angry. It would be easy to be bitter and nasty. But there's a saying that says, when I fail to forgive, it's like I am drinking the poison,
Mm-hmm.
hoping the other person will die.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I chose to no longer drink the poison, because it wasn't the other person that was dying, it was me.
Yes.
So learning to love and embrace your greatest asset. The Sensational Woman, that's the book.
May I just jump in and say that as soon as we get off this Zoom, I'll be going out to look for that book in the e-form. Is it available in an e-book download?
I think it is available on Amazon in the ebook.
Okay, so I just want to let you know that, yeah, I'm going to be ordering the book, and I'm also going to be looking forward to a meeting, in-person meeting with you because, I lived in Pasadena, California, so I know where you are. And yeah, I'm allowing that space in 24. And at that point, I'd like to have my signed copy. You know, I'll purchase my signed hard copy. I don't want it mailed. I want you to literally put it in my hand,
Yeah,
right? So,
Yeah.
but I will be doing the ebook download. And with that said, how can people reach out and support what you are doing, and those that are attracted to what you are saying and would like to have the privilege of working with you? How do we make that happen?
Yeah, first I'm going to say thank you, and I am so looking forward to connecting with you in person.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of connecting with me, I'm going to offer a few freebies. The first, as we've talked about the nervous system, I have a quick assessment, um, 20 questions, yes or no, to determine the state of your nervous system. So if you are not sure whether or not your home is in fight or flight, or if it's in ventral, or if it's in shutdown, and you're curious about that, I want to invite you to go to my website. It's www.cathrine, Cathrine spelled CATHRINE, no E in the middle, CathrineJames.com. Go to my website, and right on the front page, you will see the assessment. The question is your nervous system keeping you safe? And I know that I'm going to change that, because I think it'll resonate more if I say, is your nervous system keeping you stuck?
Yeah.
But go to my website to take the assessment, and it'll tell you where you are, as well as some things that you can do. Then there's another freebie. If you know that you are kind of dancing in this fight or flight, or even shut down, there is a infographic where it's 5 ways to de-stress in 3 minutes or less. And that can be found at bit.ly/the number 5, spell out the word ways, WAYS, the number 2, de-stress, DESTRESS. And if you have heard something that resonated with you, and you're saying, wow, I want to have a further conversation, I want to learn a little bit more, I invite you to set up a free clarity call with me. And you can do that by going to Calendly, CALENDLY.com/Coach Cathrine, and schedule a free 30-minute clarity call. And in that call, I'm going to tell you, show up if you're ready, because I don't take this lightly. I believe that all of us have been created for a purpose, and our purpose is waiting on us. And so I'm not there to just have some chit chat, light conversation. I'm there to get in your business and release some stuff from you in that call.
All right.
So those are the ways that you can connect with me. I am also on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do a lot there. Facebook and Instagram is I am Cathrine James. And then I'm also on LinkedIn.
Ooh, so here's my question to follow up with that. Are your social medias attached to your website? So, like,
Ooh,
can they get to your social media from your website?
I'm going to say maybe. I don't remember.
Right. Usually, a lot of times, usually usually when they set them up, they'll do that. So they click on your site, and I say that because what I have been just kind of led to invite the visitors and listeners to hit the site. So to go to your website, and what I will ask is just send me all the links that you spoke of, and I will put them in the narrative of this episode, and that way they can just click on. And Cathrine, I really appreciate your time today. It has been wonderful spending time with you, having conversation with you. I truly look forward to just global building with you. I personally feel like, hey, there are some things that my nervous system needs. So I'm allowing the space, and I'm putting that out there, because that's how I roll. Like, the things that I want to do, you know what? I cast and then I walk into them, right? So I'll see you in 24. And we're
Thank you.
definitely just real life and seriously, I'm going to get your book now because I just really want to delve in more, right? I want some more. This just wasn't enough. So I want more, right?
Same way. And I will say it's interesting as we're talking about the nervous system. I thank you. I have been in a space of ventral this entire time. So that has been from you.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful. Thank you. And um, we're going to go ahead and end. Thank you for listening. Reach out to Cathrine James and just see all of her beautiful offerings and what resonates for you, then go for it. And what you can share with others, please do, because that is how we grow by spreading the word. Word of mouth is definitely the best way to share. That is definitely an awesome way to support. So until next time, thank you for listening and one love.
Never a second will I waste, never an opportunity to taste the sweetness of this life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Love Drops podcast. Be sure to follow this podcast and share the love with everyone you know. Until next time, this is Charles and Diane signing off. One love.
Love it conquers all, whether big or small. Love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never